All right, wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining the Vulcan Operations Committee meeting for March. I think we got a pretty good agenda. If you want to go to the next slide. I know everyone's been waiting for this, so we're going to provide an update for the steering committee as well as some of the activities at the Vulcan Pavilion at FHUSE. There are some projects updates, and I think when we get into the member Q&A, I'd like to also bring up some of the activities that are happening outside of Vulcan or even within the accelerator landscape, especially with the ASTP and some of the initiatives and grants that are happening there. So with that said, why don't we continue to the next slide with the organization update. James, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. So there's been three principal focuses for us at the beginning of this year. Firstly, it was instituting the new transparent process for electing new members to the steering committee, and I'm going to update on that in a moment. We also have our first hosted event happening, the FHUSE Pavilion. I'm going to update about that afterwards. And the next big activity that we're working on is re-evaluating the budgets, but that won't be mentioned today particularly, but that's the three tasks that your PMO are working on at the moment for you. So yes, as you were aware, we had a process for inaugurating a new steering committee following the review process from the interim steering board and them stepping down last year. And we had 18 incredibly exciting candidates who put themselves forward or were nominated from the 42 member organizations that we have actively involved in Vulcan. And there was a 2-week window for nominations. We extended that by a week to 3 weeks because of the Christmas period, and we ended up getting those 18 candidates. From that, we had an election process for 2 weeks using a single transferable vote mechanism, the Scottish system that was used to ensure fair representation across a multi-candidate election process. And from that, 10 members were elected for the steering committee. And the results from that election, the system that we used collects all the results in a confidential way, but it shows you how the transferable votes were deployed. And those of you from a data sciences background will be interested to see it, I'm sure, and we'll be publishing that in the next couple of days after the steering committee had just met. We needed that to happen first. So that will be published on the website in the same space that all of the election material will be. So keep a lookout for that. So the steering committee, so we had the 10 initial members that were elected, and the steering committee met last Friday to elect their chair and vice chair that now don't represent specifically the category of membership that they were standing, but they represent the community as a whole. And they were elected, which left 2 vacancies in the 2 categories. And as we'd predicted and said we would do, we would backfill those spaces from the next candidates in line from those categories in the single transferable vote system. So I'm going to give you the announcement about who they were in a moment. From that first meeting, half of the representatives that represent those categories are going to be given a 1-year term, not the standard 2-year terms, and they are choosing, that's being chosen randomly. And the committee decided that on the 6th and on last Friday. And so there will be a general election annually for for a representative from each categories to be up for election. So just to be clear, then each December we'll be seeking nominations for each of the categories, and there will be a general election to represent one, and each person will have 2-year terms with a maximum of 3 terms. You may not have all had a chance to read the charter. I'm just reading that out for you so you can see where we are. Okay, so that's the process. We've been through that process for this year, and hopefully that will bed in as a stable process annually. So if you can go to the next slide, please, for me, Filippo, we'll announce, well, not announce, but we'll show who the candidates were. So as you'll see from the slide that's come up in front of you that our new chair is Jose Galvez, the Chief Medical Officer from Ignite Data. And as many of you know him, he sent his apologies. He was hoping to be here today, but last minute something came up and he wasn't able to come. But you know that he has experience at the FDA. He has experience as a clinician, and he's been involved in data sciences and is now the chief medical officer for one of our implementer member organizations, and so has a broad um, spectrum of experience across the domain that we're working in. And so we're delighted that he's been elected as the chair of the steering committee. We have a vice chair as well, acting similar to co-chairs, but we've defined the role as a vice chair, and nominated and elected from the steering committee was Chris Decker. Again, we're grateful for him standing and
That
for
is
his.
an extra special thing to make you worry.
FHIR and then go back to AR and get an ultrasound.
Sorry, okay. Yeah, so Chris has been appointed as the vice chair. Again, people will know that Chris is not only does he work for or runs a standards development organization, a key partner of Vulcan at the moment, but he's also got experience in implementer organizations and in pharma companies and contract research organizations over the years. So we've got a very exciting new leadership in the steering committee, representing biopharma and contract research organizations. So if you're one of our members and you fit into that category, these are your representatives to speak to when you need your voice heard in the steering committee. And we've got Beverly Buchter from Pfizer and Don Jennings from Eli Lilly. Everyone has their profile on the website if you want to go and have a look at their profiles on there. And you'll see from government agencies, your representative is Stefan Konya from ASTP and Mitra Rocca from the FDA. And then coming over to this side, you can see we've got Anita Walden and Michael Buckley from academia representing those. So at the moment, the terms for each of these will be displayed on the website on their issue. And so once it's been determined randomly on Thursday, I think we're doing this, who gets the 1 year term and who gets the 2 year terms, that will be up there. And then for consortia and standards development organizations, we've got Nursi Rastan from our newest member, the Synergist, and Rob DeChico from Transcelerate, one of our oldest members and key supporting organizations throughout the years of Vulcan. So again, we're delighted that those two are in there. And then finally, from the implementers group, and it's key to point out that the implementers are, as a group, are one of our largest funding sections in terms of the funds that we have to deploy as an organization. And we're grateful to have David Champeau from Evidently and Steve Hurd from J2 Interactive in the roles there. So this is our new steering committee, and I'd like to welcome them all on board, and we're delighted that they're here. If you could go to the next slide, please, Filippo. So the committee has begun familiarizing themselves. As I said, they met with each other and their new roles, and they met on the 6th to deal with some urgent matters that they had to deal with immediately. But the new chair and vice chair are now coordinating with the PMO, setting the committee priorities for the coming months. One other piece of administrative information to make clear is Viet used to be the HL7 representative on the Vulcan Steering Committee, and he will be stepping down now from that role, and Daniel will be serving as the new representative. So he'll be the new HL7 representative on the Vulcan Steering Committee. The new leadership, with this new governance model in place, the new leadership are reviewing the status of the various committees that we have. We tried to get to that in that first meeting, but weren't able to, so we've postponed that briefly. But we will be looking at the Operations Committee leadership positions, Advisory Council leadership positions, and the Public Notice Committee. And there was a discussion about instituting a finance subcommittee, and that will be discussed initially on Thursday and then presented to the steering committee subsequently. So those are the things that are going on at the moment. Each of those positions are at the end of their term, and the steering committee needs to decide the best way to logically take them forwards, and they're doing that. And then finally, the steering committee's priority number 1 at the moment will be reviewing the strategic priorities and revising the accelerator budget for 2026. So that's my update on the steering committee appointment. Thank you for that. And so I'll just quickly talk about my next piece, which is our first event, the Vulcan FHIR Forge Pavilion, where for 2 days at the PHUSE US Connect, we will be hosting a 2 day session. I'm going to give you an overview of that session in a moment, where we will be introducing the FHUSE community to FHIR and the implementation guides and projects that we're working on. This link here will take you to a registration page. I'd encourage you to register to come along, and we'll show you. I think there's over 600 people in attendance already, and we've got a really good group of people coming and presenting about FHIR at our event. So I'll quickly, if you go to our next slide, I think I'm running out of time a little bit. So we have 2 days, the Wednesday and the Thursday. And on the first day, we have a introduction to a workshop really on what FHIR is, setting real world data on FHIR by quite a well-known presenter, Russ Leftwich. And this is to help that community that may not have used FHIR, and they're very technical people, see what FHIR is and how it gets used in the real world. The next section will introduce the idea of the accelerator, how it fits into HL7, and then an introduction of some of the implementation guides and their activity that's going on at the moment. And then we move into probably our most important session, which is where the rubber hits the road, where we've got 3 representatives stepping up and talking to the community about the Vulcan Interoperability Bridge and the work that we did there and how the standards are being put into practice. We then have our digitizing the schedule of activities presentation from one of our members, talking about that key implementation guide that we've got coming up to ballot at the moment. And then we go on to a panel session where we'll be referencing what's called the standards debate. What we're talking about here is where it's standards don't need to compete. It's how we can collaborate as organizations across this landscape and push the industry forwards. And then the next day, on the Thursday, we have a Vulcan Futures workshop, which starts out with a panel discussing what they think the future will look like in terms of standards. And then we're going to break out into high energy, hands-on workshop where we'll be exploring next steps in those areas and coming up with some real workable task activities to take forward. And then finally, on the final part of the Thursday, the last day, we'll be doing a Vulcan Connect, a meet and match and collaborate session, which will be guided through various different activities and particular subjects. So I would encourage you, if you haven't already registered, to register if you can go, but also if you wouldn't mind circulating it to anyone who you think would value being here. It's primarily aimed at the data sciences and data engineering community within the pharmaceutical and contract research organization space to show them what the benefits of using FHIR are and how to get involved in this community. Okay, that's me done. Thank you, Mike.
And to piggyback off that, James, I think we should, on social media, I don't see a lot of traffic with some of the posts. I think it'd be helpful if we share that or give a like, because that'll cause a chain reaction from a social media standpoint. So please do that. All right, switching over the May Connectathon. Mercy, did you want to take that? Is Nursey on? If not, Brian, are you available to take that? See, you're on.
Yeah, this is Brian. So we have a connectathon track on AI-powered clinical trial eligibility criteria. And in a bigger system to improve trial matching, we are developing structured representation of the eligibility criteria. So we are going to use AI to develop the structured eligibility criteria, which will then be better criteria for AI to do the trial matching. So on the path to create AI structured eligibility criteria, we have to train the AI, and that's what this graduated autonomy model is. So we have weekly meetings occurring now on Monday mornings in preparation. We are manually creating the reference standard or training set of eligibility criteria structured for the characteristics that are relevant for automated matching. So we are actually determining which characteristics or criteria are relevant for automated matching, which are not relevant for automated matching. And ultimately, we want to train AI to determine which criteria are relevant for automated matching and to then represent the structured representation for those that are relevant for automated matching. So in the connectathon track, we expect to have a prototype AI, run it against some new clinical trial criteria from clinicaltrials.gov, and then participants in the AI track could weigh in on, did it correctly select the characteristics relevant for automated matching? Did it correctly create the structured representation and have an accurate reflection of the criteria? And did it correctly identify the criteria that are ambiguous? And really, the right step is to ask a human for what is the right answer and not overinterpret ambiguously phrased eligibility criteria. So in the Monday call at 9 a.m. Eastern, we have we're continually getting ready, and the April 20th call will be the track kickoff. So, Mike, if you're interested, you're welcome to come to those Monday morning meetings as well as we're developing it. So this is hopefully of interest to clinical domain experts who can help make sure we're getting the content accurately recognized. FHIR terminology specialists make sure the structure is accurately reflected. AI developers, because anybody can participate in using it for trial matching or help us with the prototype AI for getting the structured criteria. And then the CTDN is the Clinical Trial Distribution Network, which will be a network of folks wanting to use this for enhanced trial matching. Okay. So we revised the success criteria in the track to make it more focused, but basically we're hoping to have at least 80% accuracy for the items that the AI does not consider ambiguous and correctly flagging any ambiguous flags and not creating false criteria through hallucinations. We will seek 8 to 10 trials validated, because it may take, an hour of discussion and working with the group to validate all the different aspects of validation in the connectathon. So over 2 days, we may be able to get 8 to 10 eligibility criteria validated for the AI structured eligibility criteria. Okay, any questions regarding the eligibility criteria track?
Just very interesting, Brian. A lot of work in this space, so I'll try to join the Monday meetings. Any other questions from anyone? All right, Hugh.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Hi, everybody. I'm Hugh Glover, tech lead on the UDP project. If you don't know what UDP is about, it is an umbrella project. It's looking at utilizing the digital protocol. That's what UDP stands for. It grows from the ICH M11 project, which was to create a technical specification and a template for how a clinical study protocol should be represented. And Vulcan has taken that specification and the work done on USDM by CDISC and Transcelerate to produce a FHIR implementation guide for those, originally at the request of M11, and we're trying to make the maximum use we can out of the work that's done there. So the initial work at the moment is the groundwork. There will be more use cases that we look at in the future, more projects that work on this that will go into specific functions. The primary function we were interested in was the one specified by M11, which is sponsored a regulator. So next slide, please. Now, unlike the track that Brian's just been talking about, the UDP track has been running for quite some time, started May 2024, so 2 years worth of these tracks. We've looked at various things along the way. And actually in January we were the very first looking at eligibility criteria, and that's partly where the work that Brian's now doing grew out of that as a further trying to refine what should happen under UDP. What we are particularly focused on for May is finalising our validation against M11. The specification was for M11 was finalised back in December. We've had one ballot of this material. We will do another ballot in May, and we want to make sure that what data goes into the FHIR structures comes out in the same values, the same intention, the same representation as it went in the first place. So it's very much about round tripping it, looking at crossing the I's and dotting the T's. But we also have two acronyms to work with, BIOP and BIOT. So BIOP is bring your own protocol, BIOT is bring your own tooling. We did this in the January connectathon. We were able to take a protocol brought from Japan, actually in Japanese, put that through some of the tooling that members of the team have got, and be able to put it into FHIR and back out the other side. This sort of testing is enormously valuable because it brings real world examples. It brings in the things that maybe we haven't thought about, and we're able then to test them, and also to provide you with the confidence that what you've got and the way you think it's going to work and the way that we've got things and how it works with it are all going in the same direction. The bring your own tools is very much in the same mindset. There are protocol authoring tools, there are tools for moving data around. They will all have to think about using M11. Thinking about doing that in a FHIR way, I think, is a good idea, and if people have got tools that are starting to work, we'd love to have you bring those along and try those out at the Connectathon as well. So next slide, please. This is the representation of the track page on Confluence. There's a link there, both in the QR code and there, so you'll get that from the copy of the slides after the meeting. But of course it's unreadable, so if you go on to the next slide, please. I've picked out the two major things, which in a sense I hope I've already covered. Bring your own protocols, bring your own tools. who will be interested? Well, sponsors certainly, system vendors, anybody that's really involved in working with protocols. And I think that means thinking somewhat outside the box, because a digital protocol's got enormous potential for transforming the way lots of parts of the business are already being done. And I know considerable work's already going on the basis of the work that DDF has done for CDISC. So we'd love to see you. The track preview meeting, we're going to start it on March 31st. Put the details on LinkedIn, the website, and on the listserv. So you will need to sign up. But yes, hope to see you then. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Hugh. Any questions for Hugh? Okay. If you have any questions, put them in the chat if you want to. All right. So the new use case for SOA, and I see Jeff, you are on. Feel free to talk to this as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so we're currently sort of finalizing our content for the next release of the IG. Just for context, we have done like a previous release of the implementation guide for the SOA. What we did find is we had some feedback from people who were trying to implement it, where they identified a couple of use cases that we hadn't addressed in the original IG, and we wanted to be able to address. And that's sort of the activities that are rolling into that. And sort of broadly speaking, there's three main use cases that have been added. So the first example being things like conditional activities. So these are things we know they depend on some sort of characteristic, either of the patient themselves or a characteristic of the study, maybe arm allocation, those sorts of things. We wanted to be able to have a way of like providing a pattern for people using that, because that's ultimately what we want to do with the IG. We want to give people in pharma some inspiration as to how they could use the SOA IG to implement a lot of these scenarios, with the ultimate goal being able to actually plan and perform a clinical trial using like purely healthcare resources. The next thing, which has been probably the bulk of the work, is around dynamic encounters or encounter sets. So the primary one was obviously for the scenario where we talk about oncology cycles, where we want to be able to deal with the case where the original release was very linear in terms of like visit follows visit, and there's no sort of recurrence. There was no way of sort of applying any dynamism on top of it. So we needed to provide an example for that. And so that was for like repeating elements, and then also to be able to subset the patient path through the study, or represent the way of having multiple patient paths through a study in the design. So again, that it can be used for decision support in terms of implementing a clinical trial using healthcare resources, and everything like that. And then addressing the concept of unscheduled activities that we currently have within clinical research. We know that in the protocol, in the event of something unanticipated happening, we have a series of activities that need to be done. A lot of those would come under the heading of sort of standard of care and healthcare research, but we need to kind of have some way of representing that with the view to looking at how a patient would traverse through a study, and allowing sort of the case where we would like leave one encounter, go to an unscheduled encounter, and then go back into the original encounter pipeline. Next slide, please. So a couple of other things that we've added in. So we've updated the IG to R6 because we need to be able to align with UDP. Obviously, the SOA itself is a representation of the schedule of activities that can be used as part of the protocol representation of the schedule of activities. So we want to make sure that when we release the IG, there's as little barrier to adoption effectively for both those standards. We've also taken the opportunity to go through and update a lot of some of the content. So there was very little we had to really sort of fundamentally rechange. A lot of it was just updating a lot of references. So talking about adding references to M11, for example, reflecting the fact that UDP is now a thing, because when we previously did this, it wasn't a thing. And then just reflecting the fact that the contributors to the project, some have moved on. We've had some new ones added to the working groups, everything like that. So those are the sorts of things. And then just going through and making sure that all the content reads so it's something that people can take on board and work with. To facilitate a lot of the dynamic capabilities, we've effectively adopted a pattern pushed by the folks over at FHIR for Pharma. So we're going to standardize those as part of the IG itself. So people who are looking to do these follow these sorts of approaches can use those standards for implementing study designs that can be a lot more complex than the existing ones. I think that's it for the content. I know that in the previous slide there was information about the ballot. The big thing obviously is to please register to sign up for the ballot. Like it's open now, so please sign up for that. That's very much appreciated. And I think that's
I
it.
just want to, give a big shout out to Jeff and the team. I know Jeff has been at this for a couple of years now. It's been a lot of work. It's very complex. And if you notice the theme with what Brian had mentioned about AI and extracting patient matching with legibility criteria, but also how it correlates to UDP and eventually how this SOA plays a big part in efficiency and executing within healthcare sites for clinical trials. I think it's a lot of effort that's gone into this. So thanks to all the team members who have been engaged on that.
I'm very lucky to work with some very clever people.
Absolutely. Filippo, I'll hand it off to you if there's no other questions.
Thank you, Mike. So I'm Filippo, PMO lead at Vulcan. Here to give you the highlights, the project highlights for the month of March. Of course, right now, because of the connectathon and the ballot, those are the kind of two major activities we are getting involved with with many projects. I'll go through, the highlights, and we'll start with Apex. We recently made some changes to their Happy FHIR server. We've already gave that to the team, and they're currently testing it. We're looking for feedback from the team. We expect that to meet their requirements and hopefully could be used for the upcoming demo. The team is currently working on developing sample data for the testing, and the testing that was initially thought of end of April, we just heard recently, we're looking now at early May, and it's going to be again open to the community. We'll share more information with you as we come closer to the event. And we're also exploring the participation on what probably going to be a Vulcan virtual off-cycle connectathon, and most likely in the late spring, midsummer, perhaps in June. So for FHIR TWOMUP, we're still reconciling the ballot tickets for September 2025. We expect them to be completed this month because the next exciting thing is to start with the version 2 of the project. We've had some good discussions about what should be the new use cases. The team has decided to adopt race and ethnicity as a new use case. We're going to be using the Odyssey value set. As a reminder, that doesn't mean we're excluding US core, but this is just going to be an additional value set we'll make available to implementers if they wish to use it. And those are other use cases we're currently looking at, which are life sciences, gender, and microservices. Phenomics Exchange, we had a meeting with the CIC working group on February 26th. We've reconciled the remaining tickets. At this point, we're waiting on Shaheem to write the final dispositions. And at that point, then we will have a final meeting with the working group to review the IG once more. What's kind of unique to this project, because the IG is for comment, it won't be technically published because we don't publish them, but it is available to the community. And after the working group approves it, and they will also be attaching the disposition document from the ballot reconciliation. We pretty much can consider that work done. Next steps, as we said in previous meetings, we're looking to form and I wouldn't say new team, but to add members to the existing team. Right now we have Shaheem as the co-lead, and we'd like to explore new use cases and upgrade that to an STU level IG. And right now the thoughts were perhaps in September timeframe for the ballot cycle. UDP, Hugh gave us an update earlier, but real quick, we almost done reconciling the tickets from September. We hoping to be done completely by March 17th, which is next week. Also, next week is the date when we need to have the IG approval from the working group, which is BRNR. And we've submitted the NIB for the May ballot. As he was mentioning, we planning to participate in the May ballot. And we're hoping, we can have a lot of participants send feedback, because that's what we need to continue to develop and improve what we have. And the next step is also the connectathon in Rotterdam in Netherlands. And the track kickoff call, or preview as we call it, is going to be at the end of March 31st. We'll send more details soon. The idea is to inform the group about what we plan to do at the connectathon, and again, try to get more community feedback. The two main goals for that connectathon is to validate the AG against the EMA requirements. So it won't be just a quick test as some connectathons are, but we're actually validating here requirements, and that will be a good testing. And then we'll also be conducting cross-track testing with our friends from Brian's group and Nursey from those. Let me see. There's the clinical eligibility track, and I was also told there is an additional track Brian is thinking about. So we'll probably share more information as it comes available.
Yes, we have an evidence-based medicine track as well that will look at CTIS registry or study registry record profile. So there's 3 tracks highly related with the Vulcan UDP, the eligibility criteria, and the EBM.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. And so then we have a schedule of activities as in addition to what Jeff was saying, we have welcome Jean Deteau, who's already helping us when FHIR Twomap. He's a consultant from Dogwood. He's also going to be helping us in a schedule of activities as a tech lead. He's already involved with the group and is helping us to ensure we can meet the HL7 deadlines and participate in the May ballot and trying to get the IG approved through the working group. There is the link here. These slides will be published and you'll be able to follow the link. This is the link to the IG from SOA. Jeff and the team will love your feedback. So please, feel free to follow the link and go there. Feedback at this moment can also be given through, let's see, we set emails, right? And the HL7 how do you say that? Is it's not Teams. What is it, Jeff? The tool we're using for feedback from HL7? We said Jira tickets will come in once we go to ballot, but
I think we were talking about using Zulip, but
Zulip, thank you. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. So there is a Zulip channel for schedule of activities if you go there. So if you have any issues logging in, you can send us to the Vulcan email. Otherwise, once we get into ballot, we'll be using Jira as that's the official reporting ticketing. And last but not least, we have EPI. We're currently exploring the Type 4 implementation of this of EPI. What it is, if you're familiar with Type 3, now that we have the drug label, the feedback was that if you have different formulas from the same drug, there was no way to differentiate between each other. So what the Type 4 introduces is different sections. So we'll be able to showcase labels with, think it as like Lego pieces where you can pull in the section as you see fit. And so Type 4 will allow us to show different labels, perhaps of the same drug with different formula types. So it's pretty exciting. There's also a bit more technical updates about, the team is accessing the kit definitions and cross-jurisdictional differences between EMA and FDA, for example. And they're also working on the handling of the PHPID. If you'd like to join those meetings, we meet on Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're meeting this week. And I think, yeah, so all of our projects and everything we reviewed, you can always check it on our website at hl7vulcan.org. Each project has its own different page, and you'll see on the top there is a link for you to associate with the listserv to get updates. And as usual, feel free to reach us to our email address if you'd like to know more information. I think, Mike, this is it for projects.
All right. I think we have Q&A. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Q&A.
The one thing I wanted to quickly bring up is ASTPs, or Assistant Secretary for Technology Policy, just put out the Ignite Challenge. So if you don't know what the Ignite Challenge is, it's really developing fire-related tools, platforms, and workflows, that transform electronic health information into kind of the things we've been developing within Vulcan. So I'm going to put that in chat, but just to provide some visibility on that. And I think, James, as you alluded to, that new policy team can be able to support some of these assessments across the landscape and be able to determine where Vulcan can fit in and provide at least some insights or anything actionable that can produce tangible outcomes from it. So I just wanted to mention that. But let me open it up to anyone else on the call.
Mike,
There's a
Yes.
question.
Mike, it's Bev. Hey, I'm over at HIMSS, and one of the things that I attended yesterday was about LEAP as well. The LEAP project, and it's to really accelerate some of the work around individual access to TEFCA. And one of the things that they're looking at is how to start incorporating medicinal information. And I think some of the folks talking, might not, well, could definitely leverage, the work we've been doing with Vulcan, particularly with the EPI on fire, because it's a lot more complicated than, one may think. So I did go up and share with them that, we've got this EPI on fire, but I think it's a really great area where we could collaborate across with LEAP.
Wonderful. And I've just put that landing page in chat as well. Thanks, Bev.
Awesome.
Lots of opportunities out there where, again, Vulcan can fit in. Vera, I saw you coming off mute.
Yeah, I put a question in chat. I just wanted to know what the disposition of the real world data project was.
Oh, real world data. The IG is an STU and it is published. We are now meeting very frequently lately And the reason is we're trying to reform the team. We've had discussions with some of our Vulcan members who are interested in helping and giving a hand with the project. The goals of that project are find more implementers, but we also are aware of that we would need to expand the use cases of our current IG. So it's going to be we're going to have to do two things, and perhaps yes, implement, but at the same time develop the IG to include new use cases. That we've had some initial meetings to explore what these potential use cases could be, and who could also give a hand to lead our project. We're currently waiting updates from the team. They've had, like I said, an initial discussion, so we should be hearing more news soon as to what we're thinking and what could be the next step. And this is a perfect timing also because of the new steering committee, which can also enlighten us as to what they think about these new use cases and how that aligns with the Vulcan vision for the future.
Oh, that's really helpful. Thank you so much, Filippo.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Any other project-related questions?
I guess just to extend off the Vera's question, is there any opportunity, within the UDP work, maybe, where we might think of, I mean, certainly UDP is on protocol aligned to RCTs or clinical trial. Could we also think of a use case where we could consider UDP for RWD? So in other words, and this is something similar to what we're doing over with, TDOS with the European Health Data Space as well, where it's thinking about it and kind of tackling it as we're going, but making sure that we're considering both use cases at the same time. Of course, RCTs have been around much longer, but especially for hybrid trials, or a lot of times when we're doing RWD and, it ends up being, part of that RCT.
I love that idea, Bev. I think the retrospective piece is huge.
Yeah.
Because not everything's RCT, right? There's a lot of focus on prospective use cases, but I also think retrospective needs to be something that Vulcan should tackle. Personally, I think that's something that is very active, and there is no set of standards or structural guidance that is consistent across that space.
And yeah, we've been exploring also across IG's type of use cases. There's also another one with Apex potentially and real world data, or one where perhaps real world data, Apex, and UDP are together. So it's interesting and exciting how they all intertwine with each other and how they can all help each other. I think as we onboard and we get new resources in the real world data group, we will definitely be looking at opportunities and cross testing between IGs. I think that there's a big potential there. I agree.
So if I can make a couple of comments. Excuse me. So the original work that the Real World Data Group did was looking at feasibility of getting items of data out of a record using the patient API for doing that, or record API. That means you're picking out particular data points and saying, oh, we're interested in that data point. That exactly corresponds with section 3 of the M11 specification tech spec, which talks about the estimands. And I think there's an obvious link up, both prospectively and retrospectively, to be able to say, well, the protocol is asking that we look at this measure, and this measure, and we can find two of those measures in the EHR that we're looking for. What are we going to do about the third one? It gives you that it gives you that match between those two sets in a much more computable way. And I think that that's something that exploring that will probably be a set of work that we'll launch into. And Brian was talking to me yesterday about some work that he's going to trigger off, looking at how we might start to put some of that data just into a digital form in the first place from the protocol. So it's not something we're very actively working on yet, but it's certainly on the radar of things that we need to look at.
Well, Bev, you lit a fire on that one, no pun intended. I do think it would be nice to probably sit down and ideate on additional use cases that would be relevant, at the very least, to what Vulcan is doing. See how it fits into the different puzzle pieces that are already in flight.
Yeah, one other thing I'll throw out there, because I was mentioning with TDOS, but there is more of that kind of gravitate health called Bridge, which is, kind of taking a look at a few different use cases from the regulatory perspective. And there, they were first proposing to do RCTs as well as label for medicines. But we ended up, there's also that third use case with RWD. So yeah, I think joining these up would be really powerful.
Completely agree. Okay, any other questions, thoughts? All right, we got a few minutes left. We'll give folks some time back. Thanks again for joining the March OC meeting. Looking forward to the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.